Hey, this is Paul with the third battle report. We've got Skaven versus Ogre Kingdoms at 2200 points. If you would like to see my list, click on the link below. The base on the bottom left is representing a Warp Lightning Cannon. I've got 7 Gutter Runners above there. There's 50 Slaves, 7 Plague Sensor Bears, 28 Plague Monks right above the Storm Vermin, which there's 23 with all my characters bunkered in there. There's another unit of 50 slaves, another unit of 7 plague sensor bears, and another unit of 7 gutter runners. The base on the right is also representing another warp lightning cannon. My opponent had a unit of 4 man-eaters that were scouting on the top left, a saber tusk, 3 Mournfang, a big unit of bulls with his slaughtermaster, a unit of iron guts with his BSB, and another unit of Mournfang. He's got another saber tusk next to the building. Behind the building is an iron blaster, and he has 3 man-eaters with Vanguard and Swift Stride. And here's a quick view of the way the layout is before the game starts, after Vanguard moves. Really, my early strategy here was to place my gutter runners so that my 2 cannons wouldn't get taken out right away. I wanted to make sure they're spaced out enough that he couldn't have one unit take out both cannons, thus forcing his troops to be split up, and so they can't have one of them supporting the main battle. Also, with splitting them up, I'm hoping to take advantage of their low leadership. If I'm able to kill off a model and cause him to do a panic check, I feel that he's got a good chance of missing at least with one of the units, saving my cannon, so that I can fight a little bit longer. Lastly, this list has a lot of ogre hate in it. I've got 2 Grey Seers, pumped up with a bunch of plague magic. I also have one of the Warlock Engineers with the Brass Orb, Warlock Engineer with the Doom Rocket, and I'm just hoping, cause some initiative tests, both with Crack's Call and the Orb, and try to whittle him down with the cannons and shooting, and then bog him down with combat. So this picture is actually taken after the movement phase of bottom of 1, but picture should be pretty explanatory for what happened on my turn as well. I moved my units up a little bit in the middle, trying to bait a long charge if he wants to take it, or to set myself up for the next turn. So I attempt to cast Bless with Filth on my slaves. I cast it irresistibly, and then my general, who casted it, loses 3 of his wizard levels, giving him only 1 spell left. My second Grey Seer was in the slave unit on the right. He was able to get off Warp Lightning doing 2 wounds to the Mournfang, but otherwise, Skitterleap was dispelled, and none of his other spells had enough range to cast, as he only had Plague and Wither left. For shooting, my gutter runners are able to kill one of the man-eaters on the left, forcing them to panic. My cannon has an accurate shot, but at strength 0, so it does no wounds to the big unit of bulls. I didn't mention this at the start of the report, but I placed my scouts in such a way that I was kind of in between where his vanguarding unit was, so he could either put himself in his deployment zone and try to charge right away if he got first turn, or place himself a couple inches out of deployment zone to be a little closer to my cannon. He ended up opting to be in his deployment zone, thinking that he might get the first charge. On my turn, I just backed up, shot at him a little bit, but I think I only did 1 wound, and this is his moving up afterwards. Alright, on a bottom of 1. On his turn, he's able to rally the man-eaters. He moves up his units, put him into charge range for the next turn, and he gets 6 dice for his magic phase, gets off AoE regeneration, and kills all plans I had for my next turn. It was such a huge blow. You can see little markers, but his Mournfang on the left, his Saber Tusk, his unit of bulls, his unit of iron guts, just almost everything that I cared about now had regeneration. And silly me, I had no flaming. And as I mentioned previously, I didn't really have much to do on this side as I had angled him out, but he moves up closer. So we come to top turn 2. There's not a lot I can do. I did some shooting, a little bit of magic, but I think I only rolled 4 dice for the wins, so not much happened, and I ended up not getting much through due to the regeneration. So he charges my gutter runners on the left. I stand and shoot, do no wounds, and he charges his bulls into my unit of slaves, and keeps his other units kind of back, throws his Saber Tusk in front of my Plague Monks, be a speed bump and redirector. So my plague sensor bearers ended up being stupid in the woods for a turn, so they jot forward a bit. His Sabertusk attacks my cannon, and his man-eaters attack my gutter runners. And here's my opponent, Jeff. If you go to Adepticon, you may recognize him. He was posing for this every time I took a picture, so I eventually just let him be in one of them. So I snapped this picture right before he declared his charges. Basically what happened is I'm just trying to hold out a little bit, keep back. Plague Monks take out the Sabertusk and forced to overrun, and my magic phase is nullified as the Hellheart goes off, capturing both of my Grey Seers in its wake. My general gets the small round template of strength 10 hits, taking out quite a few of the Storm Vermin, but he makes his ward save. The other Grey Seer gets the strength 6 hit to all casters. He takes wound, and as does my general. So at the end of combat, the right side I've lost both my cannon and my gutter runners. On the left side, my gutter runners are destroyed by the Mournfang. So I'm really sitting left with this Plague Monks, unit of Plague Sensor Bearers, unit of Slaves, unit of Storm Vermin, and another unit of Slaves. And now I'm noticing that my Plague Sensor Bearers from the left side aren't there. They died, I believe, second turn I charged them into the front of the ogres, hoping to do a couple wounds, but the regen saved all of them and then killed off the Plague Sensor Bearers. Also, you can notice the gutter runners and the cannon are both gone at this point. Kinda wish I had a before and after picture of this, but his unit of Iron Guts charged into the front, his unit of Man-Eaters charged into the flank, and my Plague Monks at the end of the combat are no more. Total wounds dished out was upper 30s due to my Plague Banner, but he had quite a few impact hits and, lots of Strength 5, Strength 6 coming at my Tough 4. So my slaves pop this combat, so his general's unit reforms. He allocates most of his attacks on my Grey Seer and ends up killing him. Unfortunately for him, I do enough damage to the Mournfang that I win combat. I break the unit, I run it down, and when overrunning, hit his general's unit. So it takes till turn 4 before I actually get a magic phase. And here, I'm able to line up my Grey Seer to run Crack's Call right down his 2 units. I'm able to pick off his BSB and one guy in his Iron Gut unit, as well as killing one of his Man-Eaters. The Iron Guts end up fleeing, but the Man-Eaters, he ends up moving downwards and turning them about to get a flank charge into my Storm Vermin later on. Sorry if I'm a little sparse with the pictures. This felt like it was the end of the game already, so I wasn't taking as many as I should. So to recap, his Mournfang charge into my slaves, cause my slaves to explode, end up just barely missing putting a wound on my Grey Seer, so he only has 1 wound left at this point still. He ends up casting Warp Lightning to kill his Sabertusk that was hiding in the bottom right that could have charged him. Otherwise, he's just kind of sitting in the middle, trying to get spells off. He did wither his unit with the general in it. I killed the general who had the Stubborn Crown and chased him down as well, hopefully taking myself out of range of his Man-Eaters. At this point, we both believed it was turn 6. It probably actually was. I might have missed a couple pictures here of prolonged combat. But we called the game. He ended up winning by about 200 points with all said and done. And it was a lot of fun. It was very nerve-wracking that, I built this army around magic and a fair amount of shooting, and I didn't have a magic phase till the end of the game. But it came through for me then. It got me quite a few points, and I lucked out with some of those later combats with my Storm Vermin, able to pick up some of the pieces. So just to recap a few takeaways. Definitely got outmaneuvered. I need to definitely bring in some rat darts to help keep myself from getting clogged up by redirectors and to do a little redirecting. The brass orb was gold. I believe it took out 4 ogres from his general's unit. Shooting went alright. I feel like I played as good as I could have with gutter runners. Just lucked out some bad shooting on the right side against the vanguarding unit. Otherwise, I don't know, probably split up my casters a little bit more when I play demons or ogres, just in case they have that stupid hell heart. Don't get me wrong, it's only good when, you get the roll for it and you're in the right position, but I shouldn't put myself in that close position, so I got double hit. Lastly, my Plague Sensor Bears were just terrible this game. Usually they really bring it home, but yeah, couldn't get them in the right position, couldn't get a charge off with a friendly unit with them, and couldn't hit any flanks. Again, I think that comes down to being outmaneuvered and hitting units straight on. Like the charge against the ogres early on was more for delaying them down, trying to take a few wounds off. Put quite a few attacks on his general, but in the end, they didn't really help me out as much as I would have thought it would have. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video, click the like button or subscribe. Try and do a game every week, every other week, and I'll post them online. If you have any questions, rules, concerns on how I played the game, or any comments, write them right here. More than willing to respond to any comments or feedback you might have. Thanks.